Okay, back again, talking about useReducer this time. I made this code sandbox, which I'll put the link. You can fork it if you want, play around with it in the video comments and also on the blog post, maybe on the LinkedIn post, who knows. It'll be somewhere. Find it, play with it if you like, whatever. So I'm just going to explain my understanding of useReducer, how it works, and what the point of it is. First of all, I'm just going to show you this app really quickly. I'm going to try and do it quickly so I have more time to talk about useReducer and don't spend all my time talking about useState. So pretty simple application. Turns a background color on and off. It's a random color, and also you can increase the count here. That's pretty straightforward. In order to do that, I'm using Tailwind with React. I have this array of colors, 6 different colors. That's for my random colors. I've declared the useState hook 3 times. The first one is for setting and keeping track of the state of number. Then I have color active and color. Color holds a string, color active holds a boolean, and number holds a number. So those are updated with these 2 functions here. I have color click and increase click. Increase click is pretty straightforward. It just sets the number, increases the number by 1. Color click, a little more complicated, but not super complicated. Creates a random number between 0 and 5, which corresponds to the index of each of these color strings in this array up here. And then it sets the color to a random color from the array, and then sets the color active state to the opposite of color active. So when it's false, it becomes true. When it's true, it becomes false. So that's what displays this on and off, on and off. Down here is just my JSX for these 2 buttons and this div with the number in. The template string up here is loading the if the color active is true, it loads this color string, or the color string, the random color string, into the string, which gives me the background color. So pretty straightforward app. Really, I just created this because I wanted to create a situation where there was useState being called multiple times, or I was calling useState multiple times, and I had some functions to update the state, so that I could show that useReducer is useful for combining lots of different variables that you're tracking and you're asking React to track in state into one object, and also to be able to combine any functionality for updating that state into a single function rather than having multiple. So I think it's a slightly more elegant solution for multiple variables that you're asking React to track, and so that the UI can be re-rendered for changes. So I'm going to show quickly how that works and try and explain how it works. I found it a little bit confusing to start off with. Playing around with just building something using useReducer was super helpful and helped me kind of cut through the slightly more challenging syntax. So I'm gonna first declare useReducer with state, and this is dispatch. It's always called state and dispatch, and those are going to call the useReducer hook, which is going to have 2 things: a reducer function and an initial state. So these are the 2 things that React are kind of managing for me: state and dispatch. And reducer and initial state are the 2 things that I need to create in order for this to work. Up here, I'm going to change useState to useReducer. I'm not going to need useState after I've implemented everything in useReducer here. So underneath this, actually above it, I'm going to construct this object initial state, which is going to be all of those values that I originally initialized using state. So they're just going to be stored in an object instead. So they're going to be called the same things: number, color active, and color, and number is going to be initially set to 0. A comma. Color active is going to be initially set to false, as it was before, and the last one, color, is going to be set to it doesn't actually need to be set to color 0. I'm just actually going to set it to null to start off with, and up here I missed an equals. There we go, perfect. So now I have my initial state, my initial 3 values, as I did before, declared in this initial state object, which is being fed into this useReducer hook right here. So I've done I guess one of the 3 things. First of all, I had to declare this, which pretty much looks the same every single time I use Reducer. This is custom to me. It's my initial state object. What are the variables, the values that I want React to track and store in state? So I've got those there. I'm actually going to delete this now because I don't really need it anymore. I was just using it to create this initial state object. So now I'm going to work on trying to bring this functionality, these 2 functions here, into this reducer function, because I've got my state object consolidated here, but now I want to actually implement the functions that modify these states when those functions are called. So we're going to put that, the beauty again of useReducer is that I can pull these things into one function called reducer. So I'm going to create a function called reducer. Perfect. And the function reducer is going to take 2 things. React feeds reducer the current state. You can see that here, the current state. And also we're going to, the thing I am going to feed my reducer function is going to be an object, which is an action object. So things I'm going to, things I want to change, what's the action I want to take, what do I want to do to the state, how do I want to change it or modify it. And I'm going to do that with a switch statement. This is great. This is one of the first places I've really seen, I really felt like this is a really good use of a switch statement. So this switch statement is going to always depend on action.type. Action.type is going to be a string, and for the case of the first function, color click, I'm going to feed my reducer function the string color click, and so this case is then going to be selected by the reducer function, and it's going to return whatever I want it to return. We're always going to return a copy of the state, the object that's held in state. So I'm going to use the spread operator to make a copy of whatever is in state, and then I can make my updates. So in the situation of color click, I need this random variable, but I'm not going to return it. I just need it. And so I want to do these 2 things. I want to update color, and I want to update color active. So I'm going to start with color active, and I want to set color active to the opposite of state. So whatever the value is stored in state, state.color active. And then I'm going to update the color to colors random, which is pretty much the same as before. So that should now give me the same functionality as this color click function. So let's get rid of it. I have another case. This is going to be, let's call it the same, increase click. And so in this case, it's a lot more straightforward. I'm still going to return a copy, always a copy, never changing the actual state object, a copy. So a copy of state, and this time I'm going to change the number to state.number +1. Perfect. So that should work. I can delete this. it's a good idea to throw an error if undefined, oops, oh come on, really, what's going on? Undefined action dot type. So that's just telling me if I call this reducer function with an action that isn't listed in my reducer function, it's going to tell me there's an error that doesn't exist. So now I have to modify what's actually being called down here. With this color active and color doesn't exist anymore. That's actually pretty easy to update because those color active variables and the color variable are actually just stored in that state object. So I can just use the dot notation to update that. And now it's calling this state object, which has those three variables: number, color, active, color. So that was pretty straightforward. A little bit more complicated down here. I need a callback, and instead of calling reducer, I'm actually going to call dispatch because that's what React expects me to do. And now React is going to pass the state object in and then expects me to pass the action object in. So the variable that I need to pass in this object is type, and then I need that string, which in this case was color click. And down here, I'm going to do the same. Have a callback, and I'm going to pass dispatch with an object, which is going to have a type of increase click. So this should now do the same thing. It does the same thing. So I haven't actually changed the functionality of my application. I've just refactored the code to use Reducer. And I guess the thing I like about this is I can take this out of this file, put it in a separate file if I want to. This could be a much larger object. There could be much more complicated there could be more complicated functions in here, functionality. Everything's I only have to call useReducer once. I don't have to call useState 5, 6, 7 times. You know, sometimes you can have lots of different things that you're tracking on a single page. So I like it. Now that I understand it, now that it makes sense to me. Another thing which I'm not going to go into here, but is possible, is I can pass other variables into here that are needed, and I can access them using this action parameter within my reducer function. So, you know, let's say I need to pass the actual number in here, the number 7, and that's gonna allow me to mutate the number in some way. So there's lots of functionality and options with useReducer, and yeah, I think it's a nice hook to know, and I'm definitely going to try and use it more often when I have multiple when I have multiple variables that I need to track, that I need to keep track of. Okay, that's all. I've talked a lot. Check out this code sandbox. Have a go, play around with it. Have fun. Thanks.